Veronica, thanks for that. We're joined now live by one of our political experts, Associate Dean at Cooley Law School, Tracey Brame. Tracey, thank you so much for waking up early with us.
Absolutely.
And being here with us to break all this down. So, Tracey, let's start with the former president. How would you compare last night's performance to his first debate performance against Joe Biden?
Well, I think we saw a stark difference last night between his performance versus Joe Biden and last night versus Kamala Harris. So much so that it seemed at times during the debate that he wished he was still debating Joe Biden, bringing him up many times, kind of trading barbs with Vice President Harris about Joe Biden and being the worst president or sleeping until 4 p.m. or what have you. At one point, Vice President Harris had to remind him, your opponent is me, right? Your opponent's not Joe Biden tonight. She was focused, she was sharp, and where at times President Biden seemed to struggle to respond to some of former President Trump's assertions in the last debate, Vice President Harris seemed very, very organized and prepared last night.
Let's talk about Kamala Harris. She challenged, or was challenged rather, on the Biden administration's record at the border. Of course, she has been called the border czar in talking points of past here by the Trump campaign. What would you say her handling of those questions were? How did you think that she handled those questions?
Yeah, that was going to be a tricky one for her, right? Because when you actually talk about the record, she has been tied to the border. She was tasked with fixing the problems at the border. And of course, a lot of those problems are intractable and we'll be dealing with them for a long time. She did a decent job of, you could tell that she was prepared for that question, right? And she talked about the administration's attempts to address the issue and the Republican legislature, how they stymied those attempts in the name of politics. So that was a decent response. And then she was given an assist, frankly, by former President Trump, because he kept pivoting, right, to the issue of immigration, and it was less about border control and kind of more about immigrants as a whole. And so she did a decent job, with what she had, I thought.
Now, Tracey, we've been covering this aspect for the last several weeks. Michigan, of course, such a key battleground state, and recent polls basically have it as a toss-up. So what do you see as key to winning Michigan undecided voters?
So I think that Vice President Harris still has some work to do, and she has three main jobs here in Michigan and really in the battleground states. And one is to get voters to the polls. So there are going to be people who vote for former President Trump and will vote for him, like they are staunchly in his camp. There are people who will never vote for him, but there is a significant portion of the population that's still trying to decide, and they're trying to decide who they're going to vote for or if they're even going to vote. I know I've talked to people that said, I'm just going to sit this one out, right? It's just too, so she has to bring those people in. Second thing, I think that she has to present a clear vision on the economy, because there are still people who are left with the feeling that, maybe things were a little better economically under President Trump. And so how is she going to counter that? How does she address that? And then lastly, just helping people get to know her, right? People who say, I still don't really know what she's about, don't know a lot about her. How could she get out into the public? And she did some work on that last night, but I think that those are going to be her key challenges.
All right, Tracey, well, thank you so much for that analysis from the debate last night. Of course, she's going to stick around in our next half hour to help us break down more from the debate, including who could benefit most from another debate. Tracey, thank you.
Thank you.